February 8th, 1587, Mary Queen of Scots is executed on suspicion of having been involved in a plot to murder her cousin, murder being one of the few things royals were prohibited from doing with their cousins.
Welcome to the Revisionists. It's Brian Tater Flynn.
This only works if you pick that one.
No, it doesn't. It works no matter what.
I'm Jen.
I mean, honestly,
Kolic.
I don't think it works even if you pick that one, to be honest. It's not a good, like, big guy,
voice,
like
sound.
Yeah, like the crude guy, the madman or whatever. You're like I guess that's usually like the second radio host, right? I'm Zach Powers. But usually like it's like
the guy who does traffic or something.
Barney and the Scuzz. Like something like that.
The more of the straight man sort of character.
Yeah, the second guy talks with that little grimy voice, and the main guy is a little more booming, like you know, I'm Big Jim, and I'm the foosball, like that.
I love how you could basically just say any random noun, and it in that voice, it's entirely plausible as like a radio DJ name.
It's Giant Mike and the Diva Cup here on WBEZ.
Okay, maybe not any random noun.
Listeners, I'm sorry I did that to you. I'm Brian Flynn. This is the Revisionist. Jennifer Kolic is our guest.
Hi.
What we do here is every morning we give you the traffic and weather, and we also every couple of weeks or so we take a topic from history. One person presents the official Clear Channel sanctioned iHeartRadio approved version of events. Those are the same company. And then another person lays it down, flips it, and reverses it, and gives us a pirate radio version of that person, place, or thing. And the winner goes on to become the truth in a conceit that has become sort of depressingly close to how the world actually operates. So yeah, we're talking nerds.
I was supposed to do that part this time, but I didn't. So
oh crap, sorry.
Yeah, I'm supposed to like introduce you guys because you did all the research and stuff.
Yeah.
This is a comedy history podcast. I don't know whatever he said. Basically what Brian did and said, and you're going to hear him talk a lot more because he did one of the actual jobs this time. Sorry, this is kind of a last minute one. I don't know who did what or what the topic is, so I'm going to throw it back to Brian to tell me what's going on.
Listeners, I want you to know I did this to Zach. Like, he is in this position pretty much entirely because of me and because of what it's like trying to schedule people in their 30s. And Jen, thank you for like jumping on sort of in the last 2 days.
Comparing me to Clear Channel is thank you, by the way.
I wasn't comparing you Clear Channel necessarily. I mean,
I did do the actual history.
Yeah, like corporations aren't people. But I mean,
legally speaking, they are. But.
Yeah. And I also, to be fair, like, do people under 30 know what Clear Channel is nowadays? Like, I remember after 9/11,
much more relevant point.
When I remember after 9/11, there was the whole Clear Channel fuck off thing, but kids don't know about that. Gen Z doesn't know about fucking Clear Channel.
Wait, what
No,
did
the two things about 9/11 that Gen Z know about are that Rudy Giuliani tried to suspend elections in New York City after 9/11 so that he could be mayor ever. And two, that there was a list of songs that were banned on Clear Channel stations after 9/11, which is what Zach
Are you
is
saying-
referring to.
Are the yeah. I thought you said those were the two things that kids did know about 9/11, and I was like, oh, I think
No, those are
I
the
thought
two
it was
things
like,
they know.
okay.
This is-
So it's
this
like
is
I thought the
9/11
thing they might have
trivia
known
from
was
old
was the
millennials.
buildings thing. The thing with the buildings is what the kids might be most familiar with about 9/11. If you know one thing about 9/11,
well, and it's
I'll
also
bet
either
it's probably if you know literally one thing about it, it's probably the thing with the buildings.
Yep, the
Like,
of course
I
the
bet.
two World Trade Center towers, the and the other ones.
Yeah, and if you know two things, it's probably like that Robert Pattinson movie that was like a secret 9/11 movie.
Wait, what?
Wait.
Remember Me? You guys don't know that? Do you don't remember this movie?
Oh yeah.
No.
The twist was that it was 9/11 all along.
What fucking movie is this?
It's like it's a drama, romantic drama. And at the very end, like Robert Pattinson is talking to his rich dad, and he's like, fuck you, dad, I have the bravery to be with my woman, my girlfriend or whoever. And then it cuts to like a teacher, and you thought it was taking place in the present day of like 2011 or whenever it came out the whole time. And then you cut to like the girl in her classroom, and the teacher is writing the date, and it's September 11th, 2001. And they pull out of the building where Robert Pattinson is telling off his dad, and it's the Twin Towers, and he gets killed. One of the planes runs into the room where he is, and that's the sad twist ending to Remember Me.
Is that the one that has the like on the phone and then looks over the shoulder and the plane is actually?
I think so, yes. I've never actually seen it. I just know about this. I just know this twist. And it truly
like
was a twist. Like, yeah.
race.
They don't let you know that it's 2001 or anything. It's fully a twist ending. That's just 9/11.
I have a very high threshold for like 9/11 jokes and that kind of thing. That might be the worst thing I've ever heard to do.
It was
like
honestly like not even that long after it happened. It was
No, it was
2010.
not.
It was.
I mean, it's not from
It was,
being
it was
lazy.
2010, so it's less than
2010.
10 years. Yeah.
Jesus.
Oh my god. Who fucking writes that?
That's like when you have like three problems in your story and you're like, I just need an ending. And it used to be like everyone's hit by a truck. And so now
I honestly think it was like they were trying to
It's
do.
uh,
I think they were trying to be like Titanic and use like real life shit to be a backdrop for this romance. But
well, but yeah,
Titanic, they let like 80 years pass for Titanic.
well, and also the movie is called Titanic. You sort of
It's
know
not a
what's
twist.
coming.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you don't know history.
It's not a boat trip.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more like Marvel relaxation.
Yeah.
That's like it's 2001 the whole time. You know it's 2001 the whole time, and like you know what's coming the whole time.
Mhm.
Anyway.
I just got an ending for the alternate. Hang on. Stay tuned. But listeners, this time we're discussing Grace O'Malley, Anya O'Malley, the Queen of Ireland. So, Jen, you're doing the actual history.
I am.
So, without ado,
Yeah. In an unexpected twist ending, I am doing actual history. My sources include articles from the Royal Museums, Greenwich. One of one of these articles actually featured Anne Chambers, who is Grace O'Malley's biographer. And Wikipedia, the Irish Post, and Forbes, for some reason, like a listicle about her. So okay, Forbes also.
Forbes will write anything. It's like 5 years. Forbes has become like a BuzzFeed type thing.
Yeah, which has actually kind of been fun to watch.
Well,
they've always been garbage.
She briefly was the CEO of GM, so.
True. I had forgotten that in my notes. So the first article I found about Grace O'Malley opened by calling her one of the most famous pirates of all time. And it ended by saying, we don't know that much about her because she was a woman and Irish monks who recorded history in 15 and 1600s didn't want to write about her because she didn't fit the national ideal of Irish women. So that kind of sets the stage for the story going forward, is that there's a lot of like contradictory information. Like, oh, she's super famous and we know nothing about her. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So from the age of about 11 or 12, she forged a career in seafaring and piracy and was considered a fierce leader at sea and a shrewd politician on land.
And you could think, like, if there's an 12-year-old boarding ship, like, waving a cutlass in the air, you gotta have a moment, like, aw,
before she stabs you gut.
Yeah, exactly.
She successfully defended the independence of her territories at a time of Ireland was falling under English rule, and she is still considered today the Pirate Queen of Ireland. One more time, what is her name in Irish?
O Malley.
I'm gonna make you pronounce all this super Irish shit. Like O'Malley, I know how to pronounce, but the things that go like M. For historical context, Henry VIII was King of England and held the title of Lord of Ireland. Under the policies of the English government at the time, the semi-autonomous Irish clans were left mostly to their own devices. This was changed over the course of O'Malley's life as the Tudor conquest of Ireland got. I've seen it also called the Reconquest of Ireland.
Yeah, well, look, I'm about to get on my Irish soapbox here, which is actually about the Irish. And so back in the late 11th century, there were just some inter-Irish conflicts among some local lords and the High King, and one guy was deposed and whatever. He was like, oh, blah, 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 I'm going to get the Normans and invade Ireland. And just this thing like you do, that the Normans are just going to help him reconquer Ireland and then go away. And of course they don't. This is after William the Conqueror. William conquers his way through England. And so there emerges this sort of Norman Irish sort of aristocracy in Ireland that ends up ruling for the next 400-ish years with some level of assimilation into the Irish Celtic culture. And so by the time the Tudor are in power, a lot of these fucking Norman ass motherfuckers have been Irishized, really Gaelicized. That's the word. And there are in England who are like, oh, we need to make Ireland English again, to structure a phrase poorly in a way that I hate. And so that is sort of
okay.
Province in the west of Ireland. Wasn't that almost your name?
Yeah, Mayo.
Mayonnaise. Your dad wanted to name you mayonnaise.
He wanted to be Mayo, not. Yeah. My dad's short list of names for me included Liam, Corky, and Mayo. Because what my dad would do, put a bunch of burner names on his list for me that he knew my mom would cross off, and do one more than my mom. And so he got the name he wanted by basically throwing in a bunch of burners. and
Like
knowing
two
my mom can call his bluff.
terrible burners.
And then also, but then to show that you were indeed his son, in high school, you were known for much of the time by a self-selected name, which was Day Day, which I think was from the film Friday.
Yeah, it was because we had to pick nicknames in theater class, and I had literally watched Friday the night before, and it was the first thing that came to my head.
I feel that's the worst that you can do to a teenager.
No,
Sit in a room full of your
Nobody's-
peers and pick a nickname for yourself on the spot.
Brian's was maybe the only one that stuck to any degree. Like people did actually call him
100%.
that for a while.
That is how you introduce
They
yourself.
still
to me.
do.
Some people still call you that. Great. Yeah, I'm sure whenever people ask me like to pick a nickname, it's always like some combination of my initial spell Zap. So it's usually something like that. And it doesn't, it doesn't stick, and it's fine. It's not embarrassing.
I still like your nickname in military alphabet language. You had that like stand-up joke with Zulu Papa.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I think it's a solid nickname.
Yeah.
My construct is Bravo Foxtrot.
Yeah,
That's a
absolutely.
fun one.
Which is my favorite comic strip.
Anyway.
And- so O'Malley grew up at the family castles of Belclare and Clare Island. It's likely that she would have been educated at the monastery. She was the only daughter of the Irish chieftain Owen O'Malley and his wife Margaret. The O'Malley clan's motto is "Powerful by land and by sea."
Mm.
I mean, as advertised. But she grew up like the daughter of like a clan chief, basically, and like lived in fucking castles and like went to like monastery boarding school and shit. She
No. I just nodding along to the story.
A little delay.
Oh.
It's which I know because like in one of the English sources, it was like, oh well, when of course it was all about like the time that Grace O'Malley met Queen Elizabeth, and they noted specially they talked in English because the Queen didn't speak Irish. Imagine that. And Grace O'Malley didn't speak Latin, but then there are multiple other sources that were like, yeah, she spoke Latin. She was educated at a monastery. Like she had a formal education. Yeah. She fucking spoke Latin. Anyway, unlike most other Irish lords who made their living by farming, the O'Malleys were a seafaring family. See also their clan motto. Mm-hmm. They control Clew Bay and surrounding land where the clan fished, traded, and taxed others who fished. Grace was actively involved in the O'Malley seafaring heresy, which is also important because there are some other sources who are like, oh, she learned pirating from like her first husband, and it's like, no, she came from a family of pirates. Yeah. Like, I mean, like seafaring people, like fishermen, like traders, but also pirates. Yeah. So
the piracy is just like boat crimes at this point.
Yeah, it's boat crimes. Like that's, it was part of their portfolio. Okay. They had to diversify. Mm-hmm. There's a legend that when Grace was young, she wanted to travel on an expedition, I think, to Spain with her father, and she was told she couldn't go because her long hair would catch in the ship's rope, so she cut it off. There are a lot of stories of Grace O'Malley being bald, having short hair. These are the only bits of folklore or legend around her that appear not to be true. It appears to actually be the result of like her name in Irish sounds like the word for bald in Irish.
Oh.
And that apparently like might be the source of this like part of her legend. Because like none of this shit was ever written down. for like a long time. Where are we? Oh, during her life, she acquired several castles through conquest and marriage, including Duda on Black Saw, which has an interesting lighthouse. It looks like a little fort. It's very cool.
As opposed to all those boring as shit lighthouses.
Look, most of them just look like dicks with lights for them. One looks kind of like a little fortress. It's got like green windows. It's fucking cool.
So daring a little little headlamp, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like they're like mining for coal or something.
Speaking of Robert Pattinson movies, as we were in the intro, in the film The Lighthouse, originally in the script, there was literally going to be a match cut between Robert Pattinson's erect penis and the lighthouse. But the studio was like, you gotta cut that, Robert Eggers.
Okay, but was it really his or was it body?
Well, they didn't shoot it. I wouldn't be surprised if he had done it. He seems like that kind of guy to me in terms of his acting, like the projects he picks now.
Yeah, I could see him going for that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what?
Yeah, his new movie is gonna have like a cut between his erect penis and the Twin Towers.
Oh my god.
Too soon?
Yeah. And then a little toy plane. A little balsa wood flyer.
Now I'm just thinking about like a penis splinter, which is the worst.
I mean, it's not worse than actual 9/11.
You should probably bleep that out. No, it's not worse than 9/11.
Let's keep things in
I
perspective.
feel like we're getting a little off track.
Oh, really?
So basically, like a lot of the territory that she acquired in her life was centered around the bay, Clue Bay, where her like ancestral like castle and homeland and stuff were. It's on the west of Ireland, more in the north. Each stronghold was situated in a strategically important location.
Mm-hmm.
The coastline and defending the local waters. X by whom? Except, like in further reading, like the different lines at this time were basically always like going to war with each other and assassinating the shit out of their leaders and all this stuff. So, attacks by everyone and anyone, basically. In 1546, so at about age 16, Grace married the heir to the O'Flaherty clan, Donald O'Flaherty. She became active in Irish politics, and supposedly, yeah, Donald taught her how to do piracy, except I don't think that's true. Yeah, in any event, her husband was murdered by a rival clan, and there are conflicting sources. Like some say, like the clan that murdered Donald also took his castle, and that Grace like basically like warped them with like her husband like, men and took the castle back. Sources that say the castle was just attacked and they expected her to surrender and she fought them off. But in any event, that castle she got by marriage and conquest.
Right.
Yeah. And Donald's men was basically her first like crew of like pirates, or like her first like little mini army that she had was like Donald's men who stayed with her.
Mm-hmm.
After her husband's death, this is from the Irish Post. Grace allegedly took the shipwrecked son of a Wexford sailor as her lover. Tragically, he was killed by a rival clan. And so, seeking vengeance, she attacked this rival clan's castle ruthlessly killed the guys who murdered him, and that's how she got her nickname, the Dark Lady of Duna.
Duna being the name of the castle.
Duna being the name of the castle.
It's not just Irish in sense.
Yeah, but it also, like, this is like a lot of the stuff that she, like, it's all like the piracy is a lot of like for profit, but like all the shit she does on land is like 99% for revenge.
Also,
you know,
yeah,
business at sea, party in the.
Yeah,
I quibble with the idea that just because a castle is named a thing doesn't mean that name is not nonsense. I think most castles are named after nonsense.
I was gonna say, but I didn't want to sound racist.
Look, as someone who's done a tax act, you have carte blanche to make fun of the Irish.
I feel like that's a loose interpretation of an Italian accent.
Eh.
You do like Brooklyn Mario. I
Who is
guess that's an
Italian.
Italian accent. Yeah, never mind. So her plundering and piracy missions actually took her to like Scotland and so like once or twice to Spain also. She did stay mostly on the western coast of Ireland. She got around, you know. At the time when she was living, Ireland actually had a lot of cattle, and the wealth of every chieftain was numbered not on the acres of land he had, but on the number of cattle these acres could support. Cattle raiding was part of Grace's, and her galley ships would have to take some of the on board. So they would literally like sail down the coast, like steal your fucking cattle, load them onto a boat, and just abscond with them.
It's gonna be such a like kind of slow getaway. A little. What are your wheels? Your wheels are a sail full of cows.
And about 200 men.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably kind of a slow getaway.
It's not the fucking Italian job.
It's not, yeah. Her galley ships from English historical were like pretty big. As I said, 200. They were also super versatile and close to the like they literally could just like up to the shore, like load the cows on and like take off. So actually it probably was pretty fast the 1500s.
Sounds somewhat like Viking ship, which would also work in Ireland.
There were actually comparisons to her between her ships and Viking ships. She also invented a new type of piracy. She would take tolls at sea safe passage. So it's kind of like mafia piracy. It's like, hey, this water is our territory, so you got to pay the toll, or we're gonna fuck you up.
Yeah.
You know,
so
pay for safe passage, or we'll sink your.
And that's when someone was also like, got on the phone and said, "You know that new kind of piracy you've been looking for? Listen to this," and held it out to a bunch of people being extorted for protection money.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of makes sense when you think, because one of the sources of income for her family when she was a kid was like charging to people who fished from their shores. Mm-hmm. It's just the same thing, but on the water.
Yeah.
Lost my place. Oh yeah. So yeah, they took tolls on ships which Grace maintained were passing illegally through waters controlled by the O Malley clan. Actually a really busy route. Traffic was coming up from Spain to Galway and then onwards to like Ulster and Scotland. She actually like, it was a good idea. They had, O'Malley's themselves had long established trade links with Spain. So actually importing stuff like iron, weapons, wine, in exchange for salted fish, pine marten skins, fleece, cattle hides, and tallow. Mm-hmm. So they were also doing legitimate trade business too. Like I said, they diversified, you know. Her biographer, Anne Chambers, said she was quite a wealthy businesswoman in her own right, which I kind of appreciate. Folklore suggests that Grace was pregnant with her son. How do we pronounce this?
Fuck if I know.
There's like an actual anglicized
Yeah.
somewhere. Oh, actually, I want to mention this first. This with her second husband. She apparently had I forgot where I read that. She had like a prenup with her second husband that basically said like, we'll try it out for a year and then decide if I want to keep you. And it turns out she didn't, and she kicked him out of his own castle.
This is actually the law in Ireland for like pretty much all marriages. Yeah, before the English reconquest, going to get, well, I don't know if we're actually going to get to that. Irish clan law was that marriages could have, you had a year and a day to do a trial marriage, and if you don't like it, you could just do splits and like no one with no like, you know, divorce stuff. Yeah,
sure.
That's actually really cool, especially considering that her first marriage, when she was like married off at 16 to like another clan chief, that was like a political marriage. Mm-hmm. And usually when like women are traded by men for political purposes, like there's no takesy backsies.
Yeah. I don't know how common it was for like aristocratic marriages, but for most commoners, like that was how it was done. It sounds like she was doing it for her second marriage. So it may have been her adopting that, or that may have just been an unmentioned part of the aristocratic marriage.
So that brings us back to her third son.
Tybalt.
It's not Tybalt, but it looks like Tybalt.
Tobias.
We're gonna go Tobias for now. So she guess that Grace was pregnant with Tobias while she was at sea. Pirates ambushed and boarded her ship. She wrapped him up in a blanket, went on deck, rallied her crew, and captured the Algerian vessel. Anne Chambers, Grace's biographer, believes that this is true. For one thing, there are contemporary pirates raiding that part of the Irish coast. And further, Grace was just a complete and total badass. Just the first time I tried to get up after giving birth, my legs immediately collapsed under me. Mm-hmm. That was almost from the epidural, but you get my drift.
Yeah, you weren't fighting any Algerian pirates.
No, no.
All Tunisian.
I was going to say Irish since your sister was with me.
Oh, yeah.
So we kind of talked about this before, but during Grace's lifetime, underwent tremendous social and political upheaval. The old Gaelic laws and customs that were present at her birth had been swept away by the time of her death, as the Tudor reconquest of Ireland took hold. Part of it happened at that time, like during her lifetime, is because Queen Elizabeth thought her enemies, including King Philip II of Spain and the Pope.
Yeah.
Was she Protestant?
Queen Elizabeth? Oh, yeah. She was
Protestant.
She was like the, other than Henry VIII, like the most Protestant person you could think of.
Oh, that's right. Henry fucking...
Yeah, half part of the Mary Queen of Scots was really like executed. Like partly it was like trying to assassinate her or whatever, but like it was also to just Catholic and Protestant.
Oldest rivalry on the books.
Itchy and scratchy.
Basically, like Lizzie thought that the Pope and the King of Spain were going to use Ireland as a backdoor to attack England.
Which they were. She was not actually wrong about that, to be fair.
Oh, okay. Fair. It's hard to tell what's like royal paranoia and what's like...
Oh, it's both.
Nice. Okay. So in 1584, the English naval commander, Sir Richard Bingham, was appointed governor of Connacht, in which the lands of Grace and her extended family were located. Anne Chambers says Bingham was one of the new breeds of Puritan military men in the service of the Queen. Fucking Puritans. So he was especially antagonistic to Grace, because, you know, Puritan sexism. Like, he literally like was like, this is not like fit conduct for a woman. So her eldest son Owen was actually murdered following a dispute with John Bingham, who is the governor's brother. Again, avenging the murder of her son. She just went into like full-on land-based rebellion also. This, by the way, was when Grace was like 56. So don't let anyone tell you can't be a strong, powerful woman after 50. Go and avenge your children. Grace was actually captured by Bingham, and later testified that he built a gallows, like, I guess, outside where she was held captive. Like, she thought that he was just gonna hang her. Such was Grace's importance as a leader that on hearing of her capture, the Irish chieftains came together and gave hostages to ensure her release. So Bingham retaliated by confiscating all of Grace's cattle, horse, all of her lands. She ended up basically like losing all of her property, and she was forced to live on one of her ships. So she was like on the brink of poverty, completely isolated. Her son had been murdered. This English fuck was fucking up her shit. It was a real bummer. So
it's a real bummer my son was murdered.
Yeah. No, so Bingham, after this, arrested her half-brother. Name, please. Donald
Murray. No,
the other guy.
Donald Peepy? Popey? Look,
we're going with Popey. Tibbet is her son's name. So her sons Tibbet and Murrah, and then her half brother Donald, were arrested by Bingham. This is, multiple sources say, like, the three of these guys are arrested, and that's why O Malley sails to England and petitions the crown. But every single source that I found said that she only petitioned for the release of her son Tibbet, not her half brother and not her other son. Murrah was apparently a real piece of shit. Like her other son, she actually fucking hated him. He like beat the crap out of his sister.
Yeah,
and
it's
like
a real I don't care for Job kind of.
Yeah. Like, I'm gonna petition for the release of all, like, oh, he captured all of them. I'm fucking going down there and trying to fucking, and then she's like, fuck two of them. I only want the special one. She actually like basically disowned him at one point. I'm guessing it was before this, and only ever mentioned his name after that to curse him. He was a real piece of shit. So she apparently didn't go rescue him, just the good son. The historic meeting with Queen Elizabeth I and the Pirate Queen took place in September 1593 at Greenwich Castle. And this is where like the English articles were all like, well, they spoke English because Grace couldn't speak Latin and Elizabeth, you know, she didn't speak Irish, obviously. The encounter was kind of a mixed bag for Grace. Elizabeth did grant the release of her son, on the condition that she ceased all rebellion against the crown, which of course didn't fucking happen. I found conflicting stories of what happened with Grace O'Malley's other requests, including the return of the land that Bingham fucking stole from her.
Mhm.
No mention anywhere of the cows or the ponies. Like history doesn't say what happened to them, tragically. Some sources say that like these requests were denied. Others say that Elizabeth actually did return Grace's stolen lands, and that she was allowed to quote unquote continue with her career at sea.
Yep.
What is known,
just like a parent, like, or like not a parent, like an aunt or an uncle hearing someone does stand up and be like, "Oh, good luck with your little skit next week. I'm going to see. I'm going to. You had some good bits."
what we do know is that Elizabeth eventually reinstated Bingham in Ireland. I guess for a while he was unstated. I don't know. Upon Bingham's return to power, Grace and her clan supported the Irish insurgents during later clashes with the English. So like as soon as this son of a bitch was back, she was just like, all right, fuck you. It's like it's back on. As a pirate, O'Malley was largely written out of Irish history. Also because like she was a woman and her life didn't really support like the national Irish ideals of womanhood or whatever. So contemporary Irish historians like didn't really write her shit down. Most of her exploits were kept alive by oral history and folk tales in Ireland. Like people would like tell stories about her like around the fireplace in the evening, basically. There was a lot of support for the like veracity of these stories found in English state papers and records. Like all the stuff about what's his name, Bingham, and like the records from her petition to Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth like wrote a letter that mentioned their meeting at one point. So it makes it difficult to like verify a lot of stuff about her, but because it's also like, I just Googled around and found some articles. I didn't like do original research. So, but in any case, like this, it makes it difficult to kind of pinpoint the precise year and location of her death. What most modern historians agree on, though, is that she died at the age of 73. She died of old age after a career as a fucking pirate.
Yep.
Which, like, she was probably the most successful pirate in history. Like, what other pirate do you know of that died of old age?
I mean, you're asking me to name all the pirates I could think of, like offhand.
You host
like,
a history podcast.
Okay, but like, I'm not fucking super horny for pirates. Like, I don't.
And isn't the best host of a history podcast he that knows the least about history and so can learn the most? You see? The curiosity that can drive you to learn new things when you don't already know them.
Because that's also how history works, where you don't know just one or two areas that you specialize in. You know all of them. And so, yes, ask me about pirates and also the silk trade.
What area of history do you specialize in?
You have more in your script.
I really thought you were going to say butts.
I mean, look. That's more of science than art.
Than art? What? We're talking about history. What?
Look.
And I think you could make an equal claim between science and art for butts.
Okay.
It's true. You can.
It's true. I mean, it depends on...
Look at the Venus de Milo.
Yeah.
There's lots of butts in art.
Yeah.
Artistic depictions of butts go back as long as art itself.
Yeah, it's the first paintings on the Lascaux cave wall were, of course, of like a thick dumper. Like, just like, yeah, it was the first recorded mention of juicy couture sweatpants.
On a final note, so yeah, she was so fucking good at being a pirate that she died of old age in her 70s. She was buried in the abbey on Clare Island, which is the same abbey where she learned to read and write as a child, which I think is kind of poetic and shit.
That's also like a side effect of like teaching children in like abbeys and monasteries where like you're having classes where there's a bunch of like graves and tombs around you, which is kind of chill.
The bus I took to high school every day went past the graveyard where my grandparents are buried.
Okay.
Yeah. Also Louis Armstrong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of nice though to be like whatever, you're 5 years old and you're like curious, you're like, hey teacher, where will life take me? And she could just point out the window and be like, sooner or later, it's gonna be right about 20 feet from where you're sitting right now and 6 feet down.
Yeah. That's a very playful teacher to be also like, it's half kind of joking around and half like Ghost of Christmas Future.
I dig it, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, kids got to learn about their mortality sometime.
Yeah.
I remember my like 4th or 5th grade science teacher being like, she was like super old. She was like a few years away from retiring. She was just like, we were learning about global warming. And she was like,
oh, God.
Listen, this is going to be your problem. I'm going to be long dead. I was just like, oh, fuck.
And that, of course, remains the attitude of
Yeah.
pretty much most boomers. Anyway, Jen, thank you.
You're welcome.
But I have a bit of a different take on the story of Granio O'Malley, Grace O'Malley, which is just, it's, guys, as an Irish person, I'll just say this: English makes more sense to me to speak, and English is a bugfuck language. It's bad. And maybe I'm not a native Irish speaker, and maybe I don't have the cultural immersion required to sort of make this sort of judgment, but I'm just going to use English.
I also want to point out, listeners, your name is Flynn. You're like an 8th Irish.
Yeah, something like that.
You're like more everything else than you are Irish.
It's true. But when you grow up Irish, like, that's it. That's like
when you grow up with an Irish name.
When you in like an Irish family. I'm not saying I didn't fucking grow up on the Burren, but like it's a sort of ethnicity that overtakes a lot of others. Like I know just enough to know I'm German, and like, cool, I don't need to go into any more detail than that, because also Germany. Same with French, and whatever other bullshit my family got into. But anyway, so Grace, she set out to sea when she was very young, 11 or 12. And, the piracy is a lot like any sort of like kids who thought going to war was like going to be all excitement and adventure, which those kids grew up to be Donald Rumsfeld. But they've actually, when people actually go to war, they find out a lot of it is just a lot of waiting around and being bored. And piracy is no different. So for every time you come across, a galleon full of gold and doubloons and gold doubloons, like, for every time you do that, it's hours and hours and just hours of waiting, sitting on a boat, looking at water, smelling water, tasting water, touching water,
Getting crapped on by birds.
Yeah, exactly. Having your hot dog stolen by birds.
Yo, fuck those seagulls.
Look, it doesn't have to be. It could just seagulls in general too.
Yeah.
We're not listeners. If you can find the seagull that stole Jen's hot dog when she was in high school?
No, I was like maybe 10.
Okay. But if you could find that seagull, fuck it up. And that will be revenge. Because that's the point of Moby Dick. Revenge on animals is possible and chill. But so to fill her time on the boat, Grace would sort of in the great Irish tradition, she liked to spin a tale or two, you know. She had the gift of gab, she had the kiss of the old Blarney Stone. Tie. So she would usually gather the other sailors around her, and tell stories about, you know, some of them came from the past, from Irish folklore, you know, Finn McCool, Brian Boru, a lot of the other stuff. But sometimes she would sort of, you know, fire one off the top of the dome and just talk about this, you know, red-haired woman who sailed the seas, sword in hand, cows on boat, just sort of tugging along and making a name for herself on the high seas and having all the adventures that they weren't having at the moment because it's so fucking boring to be in a boat. I cannot stress this enough. Other than all the fear of being on a boat is like you are constantly afraid of dying and you're also the most bored you've ever been. Boats are bad. If you can,
what about a fabulous Disney cruise?
I could think of almost nothing worse than being on a cruise ship at any point, let alone when there is still a pandemic going on. Even then, like, they're hotbeds of norovirus. Some of this is informed by the fact that I can't swim. Anyway, and so she found herself getting enraptured by these stories, so much so that she would take to her cabin at night after telling them and write down the ones about this big lady pirate, BLP.
Why she gotta be big?
Well, like adult, I mean. Like you're Ted. Like they're all grown-ups are like big people to you when you're Ted.
Oh, so this is 10-year-old Grace telling the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
I may have said 11, but you know, whatever. Potato. And so she eventually fills like her diary with these stories. And she would constantly be stewing over them and reminiscing and looking over the rail of the ship. There's a name for it. Hull? There's some special fucking boat name. They have special boat names for every goddamn thing. Boats think they're so fucking special. But listeners, if you know the name for like the wall of a boat, keep it to your goddamn self. I don't give a shit. So she would look out and she would think about these stories and think to herself, what if you could change your fate? And so she did. It wasn't necessarily, you know, the training from her family. And it definitely wasn't the fact that her second husband was a pirate or first husband was a pirate and like anything like that. No, she trained herself to be a pirate because she wanted to become the pirate she wrote about in her stories and the pirate she dreamed about. And you know, you see this sort of sense of incorporating these things from like a child's fantasy into even like her pirate empire, for lack of a better term. Like every castle she built.
It's a bulwark.
Yeah. Yeah.
There
Thank
you go.
Thank you.
So now we
Thank you. Now I
we
have
don't need
now I have
to-
to fucking know that boat shit. No, thank you for that, because that would have bothered me. Like every time she would build a fortification, which she did in the wars, and like Irish castles at the time, they're not the castles you're thinking of. They're very shitty castles. Like they're good at castles. They're good at being a castle. They're not that impressive. They're like a ranch house almost. Um, but next to them, she would put little tiny fairy castles for the fairies that inhabit Ireland to go and, plunder and kill the English. And, she did all of these things. And so even her meeting with the Queen, that was something from her stories. Because at the time when she was a little kid, Henry VIII was King of England. And so, it's not hard to imagine someone you would enjoy meeting more than Henry VIII, who was just basically gout in a robe, and just by all evidence, a bad person. Let's just say it. So she came up with this figure of this severe, stately English queen, who she called Lizard Breath. Turned out to be Elizabeth, but close enough. And so she talked about the meeting between the pirate in her stories and this queen who, despite the things they had in common, was committed to taking over not just her land, but all of her island. And so when she sort of saw this made manifest, she realized her stories had come full circle. And she had never really written as a child about the demise of the pirate from her stories, because why would you? Why would a child write that story? Like, listeners, if your children are writing about deaths a bunch, ask them how they're doing. Talk to your kids. I don't know. But so after this meeting, she took out her diary for the first time since she was probably a teenager and wrote the final story of the pirate Grace O'Malley, which was that she died of old age, sleeping in a castle, with a sword in one hand and the death certificate of her idiot son in the other.
And, fuck that guy.
But this was the only story of hers that didn't come true, because one morning she woke up and found herself sitting high above a bustling city, and looking out of a large window at a fall morning, and it was 9/11. Okay, the end.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for your presentations today.
Thank you, Mr. Powers.
Yeah. Good
Mr. Powers, are you
dioramas.
playing DraftKings again?
I was forced to delete the app after losing all of my money. So regardless of my personal foibles, I probably should be telling you kids about my crippling addiction to gambling. Now I have to do what all teachers do and choose the better student.
Oh my god.
Before we do that, let you kids know that I have another podcast called The Movie Trap.
Mhm.
As I stated, I lost all my money to gambling, so if you listen to that, it might help me in that regard. It's a movie show. Do you have anything to plug, students?
So this is obviously not a thing I'm involved in. But if you want listeners to support the Atlanta Solidarity Fund, which is currently handling bail money for a lot of the forest protectors and other people fighting against the development of Cop City, basically urban warfare training facility for cops in the pristine forest outside Atlanta. The Atlanta Solidarity Fund is handling their bail and a lot of their legal fees because they're being hit with ridiculous charges. And so please, if you can, fund. And yeah.
And I would like to plug a book that I'm currently reading. It's called Buried in the Sky, The Extraordinary Story of the Sherpa Climbers on K2's Deadliest Day. If you like stuff like Into Thin Air, or if you like history, because it goes into a lot of the history of like the Sherpa like people, and the history of like that part of the world. It's super, super interesting. And I am having super fun time reading it. I would also encourage you to support your local Food Not Bombs organization and heckle your local school board, because I don't know where you live, but they're probably up to some shit.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on what you heckle them about.
Yeah, heckle them about the right things. Don't
be a piece of shit.
Yeah, don't be a if you're still a piece of shit listening to the show, stop being that, or stop listening.
The former would be better, I guess.
Yeah, I would prefer the former.
Yeah, if you were like, I'll take one of the two requests, take the first one.
Yeah.
I mean, if you still want to listen and you still want to be a piece of shit, at least give the show money.
Sure.
Yeah, but don't tell me you're a piece of shit.
I'll take money from a piece of shit. That's fine.
It's the asshole test.
That's what capitalism is, actually.
We're not gonna. It's less money for them to spend on piece of shit stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't buy this fucking supplement from Alex Jones. I can't buy Brain Boost Gold or whatever.
Anyway, on to the final part where I tell you who I care about more. Okay, so although I'll admit there were a couple minutes during the real story where things got a little choppy on the call and I missed some shit. So I hopefully didn't miss her doing anything fucking terrible, more like not just piracy, which is like, who gives a shit, but like, really bad stuff.
No, she was cool all around.
Yeah, I got the vibe that this is like, this is one of the ones where I should probably be like, this real person was pretty cool. I don't know how often we're going to get that with the Pirates theme. I mean, last time we covered
the worst
people killing babies with trees or whatever. So I think maybe I think this time I should take the golden opportunity to pick the true story on this particular occasion.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I win again.
Yeah, listeners, sorry, Zach, I did not realize it was cutting out because it was.
No, that's all right. It's all right. It was only for a few minutes.
Okay. Hopefully that doesn't show up on like the Zoom recording, but we'll figure it out. Anyway. But Jen, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Zach, thank you as always.
Mm-hmm.
And Bean.
Thank you, Bean, for being here.
Yeah, thank you for not farting directly into the microphone, even though your asshole is almost directly against it.
No one knows. No one knows who or what. I guess you could infer it's a pet of some kind.
You could. I will neither confirm nor
or maybe
deny
it's
that.
our producer who's been here every episode. And it's
Our
just a guy.
producer.
Beat is my original life partner of going on 12 years now.
Yeah.
She is a cat and she is purring on my lap currently.
Yeah.
She also puts her asshole on everything.
Mm-hmm. Which is what you look for in a life partner. That'll do it for this episode of The Revisionists. Have a good time. February 8th, 1587. Mary, Queen of Scots, is executed. Legend has it that if you say Bloody Mary 3 times, she'll appear and talk shit about Protestants. February 8th, 1915. D.W. Griffith's movie The Birth of a Nation premieres in Los Angeles. It would later be adapted into the TV show Cops. February 8th, 1978. For the first time, proceedings of the U.S. Senate are broadcast over the radio, leading to the first episode of Foreign Relations Committee Zoo Crew with Tater, Wildcat, and Julie. Okay.
Okay, let
I'm
me
sorry
see.
I had to get so close to you for that.
February 8th, 1587, Mary, Queen of Scots, is executed on suspicion of having been involved in a plot to murder her cousin, murder being one of the few things royals were prohibited from doing with their cousins. February 8th, 1960, the Hollywood Walk of Fame is established and spends a glorious 6 hours not yet honoring any sex pests. February 8th, 1946, the People's Republic of Korea is dissolved in the North, establishing the Provisional People's Committee of North Korea, honoring Kim Il-sung's love of inefficiently renaming things.